Me. So word has traveled, the death of former Cuban leader Fidel Castro, and now the world is reacting. Boris Johnson, the UK's foreign secretary, called it the beginning of a new era for Cuba's people. India's prime minister said India mourns the loss of a great friend. And in Russia, the Kremlin sent official condolences to the Cuban people and to President Vladimir Putin, praised Castro for building, quote, a free and independent Cuba. And in China, the president, Xi Jinping, said Castro was a great leader and hailed his achievements for the development of world socialism. CNN's Patrick Oppman is the only U.S. television correspondent in Cuba, and he joins me right now from Havana. So, Patrick, as we're getting reaction from around the world, what kind of reaction are you getting from people there in Havana?
And Cuba is now in officially a state of mourning that will continue on for some 9 days. And that means that last night after the news broke, bars and nightclubs were quickly shuttered. This morning, I heard that from his son and manager that Placido Domingo, the famed tenor who's due to give his first concert in Cuba this evening, had to have that concert canceled. The Cuban government, of course, not wanting to see any kind of celebrations here. Very different atmosphere than Miami, very somber atmosphere. And let's just quickly walk through what's going to happen. Throughout the weekend there will be this kind of very somber atmosphere, and then starting Monday we expect that Fidel Castro's ashes, he has to be cremated, will be displayed in the museum of the Revolution Square here, and tens of thousands of people will walk by those ashes to pay respects to him, and then those ashes will be transported down the island some 700 miles from where I am now. You can imagine thousands of people lining up along the road to see him off, and then he will be buried on December 4th. So quite a schedule to go here. Of course, Cubans really not sure what comes after that, but in the immediate future is that Cuba will put on a funeral to mark the passing of this very controversial icon, Frederica.
Patrick Oppman, thank you so much. In Havana, let's talk more about this with my panel. Michael Weiss is a CNN contributor and analyst on Russian affairs, and Lisandro Perez, a CNN contributor and author of the book, The Legacy of Exile, Cubans in the United States. Good to see both of you.
Good to be here.
So I wonder, Lisandro, as we hear these sentiments coming from leaders around the world, from Russia, China, and India, is it your feeling that, particularly in these days of mourning in Cuba, that there might be visits from those leaders who are expressing compassion on the passing of Castro?
Well, we don't have, I think, all the details yet on the funeral arrangements. We'll see if there will be one opportunity in which foreign leaders may attend. But I anticipate that, yes, there will be a significant number of foreign delegations and foreign leaders attending this funeral. Fidel Castro was an iconic person in what has been called the Third World. He has supported many governments around the world. He is head of a revolutionary movement. Headed a revolutionary movement that had a great impact on the world, and I think we're going to see a lot of foreign leaders. If there is one occasion in which there will be a funeral, that they will be
for these U.S.-Cuban relations that have thawed?
Well, I think the Obama administration's goal by opening up Cuba was the hope that this will somehow liberalize the regime, that Cuba will be on this new path toward a more pro-market orientation, less hostile to the United States, and possibly even eventually fall into a kind of pro-Western orbit. Now, you can say that this is wishful thinking or utopianism, as I think Donald Trump, the president-elect, certainly seems to think it is. But President Obama has gotten a lot of flack for his statement, and I do think it was a bit wishy-washy, not enough on the human rights abuses, the imprisonment of homosexuals, Castro's pro-Soviet tilt, which, remember, nearly brought the United States to the brink of World War III, in the 1960s. However, he was careful to address his remarks mostly to the Cuban people, and he said that history is going to judge this man. And again, this is, for Obama, this is one of his legacy foreign policy issues, although very minor in comparison with, say, the Iran nuclear deal. But Obama came to office basically promising this, right? He said we're no longer in the Cold War, there's no longer a zero-sum game on the geopolitical international stage. Although the irony of history being, with the passing of Fidel Castro, in many ways one of the most iconic, until today, surviving actors of the Cold War, the United States does indeed now find itself in a nadir in Russian relations not seen since the collapse of communism. So this is one of these sort of unforeseen ironies or unexpected turns of events, I think, as Obama leaves office.
And Lissandra, is it your feeling that people have a clear understanding of who Raul Castro really is, because he has been operating, in the shadows of his brother, Fidel Castro, and now that Fidel Castro has passed, do you feel that the real Raul Castro, will emerge, or do you believe that he is a striking continuation of a Fidel Castro?
Well, I think he's going to keep in place, obviously, the basic outlines of the system that he and his brother created. I think that's a system for which they have they've brought the Cuban people into solidarity with that system. I think the basic outlines of that is going to stay. Some people believe that with the death of Fidel Castro, that the government will show certain flexibility in, again, market reforms and a number of other things. That remains to be seen. You have to see the other side of this, however, which is that there is a U.S. administration coming in that has essentially been talking tough on Cuba. The pattern, both when Ronald Reagan was elected and when George W. Bush was elected, was for the Cuban government, in the face of what might be an unfriendly administration, might retrench. And I think that they're going to not move very quickly on any more reforms, no matter what President Trump demands. You have to keep in mind that what President Trump has been talking about, President-elect Trump has been talking about that he'll do as president, that those have been demands the U.S. government has had for a very long time. These are 11 U.S. presidents that Fidel Castro has lived through, and they've been demanding human rights, the release of political prisoners, all these things that President-elect Trump believes that he can get the Cubans to do, they haven't done.
Perez, Michael Weiss, thank you so much, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Eric saying this as our two countries continue to move forward on the process of normalization, restoring the economic, diplomatic, and cultural ties severed by a troubled past. We do so in a spirit of friendship and with an earnest desire not to ignore history, but to write a new and better future for our two peoples. That from John Kerry. And we'll be right back.